Hello and welcome to Label Sessions Presents. Label Sessions is a global platform that connects you to the best advice from the most interesting people, whether you want advice, mentoring, or ideas. In this episode, myself and Iain Montgomery, also of Label Sessions, talk about our time at the Marketing, Advertising and Disruption, or MadFest in London, walking you through our highlights, lowlights, and tips for those who want to attend the fest next year. Let's hear it. We're here to talk about MadFest. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me, Iain, after, traveling all the way from Canada to London.
I've missed sitting on planes, so.
Yeah, I know. I thought I had a bad time traveling a 4.5 hour train, never mind, what is it? What's translate that flight? How far is it?
I think I had like a 9-hour layover in Munich the other day, so yeah. I got to see Munich, so that was nice.
So we'll kick us off with we'll just start off with a little bit of the overall feelings. Like, how did you feel about MadFest overall?
I thought it was great. I found out about it through. I did like the Mad Masters thing with Roy Sutherland a while back because I'm like the fanboy of that guy. And then they gave me a ticket, so I was like, well, I've got to go to this thing. I think the most interesting thing about that event is that you kind of have this, like the UK kind of has this very cool, innovative, disruptive, creative scene around advertising. And I actually think the last 10 years or so, it sort of lost its luster, got a bit stale, lost a bit of confidence for whatever reason. But then I thought like this event, like the volume of people that were there, it was really busy. We'll talk about that. The quality of the speakers that they had. Actually, there's something quite special happening in like the UK creative scene where like living in Canada and living in the US, like we don't have that. So I'd love to bring some of that to this side of the ocean where that's like how we talk about a product, whether it's like different cultures around creativity, whether it's like rethinking loyalty, like the we'll talk maybe a bit about the lady from Tesco. I thought that to me, like that cluster of people, that vibe, that energy was like made for an awesome event. It's just a shame about the queues.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It was really, really energetic and bombastic, for lack of a better term. It was really, there's so much going on. The speaking side of things was really well organized and really well put out. Like, there was a constant stream of just really interesting talks going on. There wasn't very many that I wanted to skip. It was kind of a case of there was too much that I wanted to see, which is a better thing.
You ended up with like, you have two where you're like, oh, I want to be there, but I want to be over there. And you're like trying to make a choice of which one you go to, right?
Yeah. So like, I remember, I think it was the last day you were there, the Thursday, it was like back to back to back to back. Oh no, it was the Wednesday. It was the Mad Women talk, and then it was White Claw, and then it was Jack Daniels. And how they marketed their products and stuff, and that was fascinating. But
interesting, like you see like the craft and the care that goes into that, and you compare like the Jack Daniels people, like you can look at that and go, oh, it's all quite samey. And then as they were talking through, actually, like here's the differences we made, here's the tweaks that we've done. Like the care and attention put into those campaigns, I think like actually most people don't notice that, and I only really notice it when they're talking it through. But once you've seen it, you're like, oh, actually, that's genuinely distinctive versus some of the competition.
Even though they were back to back like White Claw and Jack Daniels, it was a case of like the different perspectives of like a legacy brand like Jack Daniels and how they sort of continually expand versus a newcomer that's making its way across the pond, because hard seltzers aren't really a thing, or weren't a thing until a few years ago. Basically, COVID is what ushered it in.
I remember when White Claw wasn't in Canada, people were smuggling it in. And then when White Claw launched in Canada, there were the queues outside liquor stores that had White Claw. And there was like, you could only buy a maximum of 48 cans of it. And it was like a hot commodity. And then now it's like, oh yeah, hard seltzers. That's a normal thing.
Yeah, I think it's a cool different product. I mean, I quite like them. So I know a lot of people, it isn't to their taste because they kind of just taste. I've heard somebody say it's like basically alcoholic LaCroix.
Yeah, it's children's booze. No, we don't condone that behavior. Sorry, I'll retract my statement.
No, I'll happily admit I'm a child.
On the alcohol subject, we watched the guy from Beavertown, and he was talking about he was supposed to run a workshop, and you can't run a workshop when everyone's wearing like silent disco style headphones for listening to a talk. But I thought he was fantastic in that there's a style of talk that people give that is very, very down to earth, humble. The way he talked about like, I'm dealing with other problems myself, I have anxiety, but this is how we like think about creativity and how we're building a culture at Beavertown. And he was like showing some of the work that they've been doing. I'm pretty sure they're owned by Heineken now, so they're no longer like craft brewery, they're now like owned by the corporates. But I thought like the way that guy just presented how they built their brand, and that there isn't a beer brand that's doing something like that on this side of the ocean. And then even like the fun stuff, like their beer is called Neck Oil, So they'd gone and made like neck oil sunscreen for like when you get sunburnt in a pub garden after you've had one or two. It's just like tongue in cheek and fun, but at the same time, like based around a real customer problem. So I look at those things and like, to me, there's this thing of, I've worked with quite a few brands over the years where it's been small, it's had a character, it's been very distinctive, it's often been founder led, and then it gets bought by a big conglomerate, especially in the drinks industry, and the character and the soul and the thing that made that product special, that brand special, gets killed. So watching this company that's been bought by a global brewing behemoth still doing things that are like fun and tongue in cheek and doing it with confidence, like to me that's really inspiring. I want to see more brands that behave like that.
Yeah, I was going to say he was absolutely probably my highlight, because I wouldn't have never guessed that Beavertown was bought or owned by a major, by one of the big three, because it's either Anbev, Heineken, or Carlsberg, right, are the big three. I never would have guessed. I would have, because it was really refreshing and down to earth, like you say, and quite sweary, which I was surprised by. But
do that in the UK though. Like I can get away with that. I can drop one or two swear words into a meeting. I have to be careful I don't do too much. But like you can do that with a British accent. It's quite hard to do it with a Canadian one. Oh, it's great when Canadians swear. They need to do that more. Fucking right, eh, bud?
Well, the thing I quite liked about the Beavertown talk as well is obviously it was about how they market their brand, but I thought it was quite interesting of the interaction, our sort of interaction between how we perceive social media as well, like that big sort of part where he was getting people to go through people's screen time. It's like, how many minutes or hours do you spend on screen time? It's like, and I was like a minute. And then there's one girl down the front who was like, I've been on it for 9 hours in the span of 2 days. It's like, how is it even possible?
Do you not use Instagram? Because like when they do he said for the clarity people listen to this, he said it got people to open up and say like, how much time are you spending on Instagram? I think I was like 25 minutes. I was like, oh, actually, that's less than I thought. I spent more than that. It made me feel better about myself. Like 25 minutes is okay, but you spend 1 minute a day on. You just not use Instagram, but you have it on your phone. I'm baffled by that.
I have it to post our fine, lovely content. This very clip that you're going to read right now, you're going to watch right now on Instagram and nothing else.
This is so meta.
I do like Instagram, but I'm a bit more of a zoomer. I generally use TikTok myself. TikTok's sort of my jam, which is probably why I'm developing ADHD as we talk right now.
But like, there was a lady at the front, and it wasn't 4 hours. It was 9 hours. She spent 9 hours. I assume she ran a brand platform on Instagram. But like his whole thing about the way that we're getting lost into that, it's not like a new thing, but like I just appreciated the way he spoke about it. It's like, it's not like you're bad for doing this thing. It was very much like, just be a bit more mindful of how you're spending your time and where that goes and what that means and the impact that has on the culture and the people around you. The other thing I really like that guy talked about, and this sounds like such a self-help book thing, and I can't hide my cynicism for that kind of stuff, but I really appreciated how he said it. But he said like, when you do in a meeting, it's like, how are you? Everyone was, yeah, fine. And he was like, how are you feeling? And like the cynical British person in me looks like, I'm like, oh God, another one of these people. But actually, I think that's really, really important. So like, that's a lesson that I think should be shared more widely than the 150, 200 people he had sat in front of him. So like, yeah, asking people how they feel versus how they are. Lovely little tip.
Yeah, it was a lovely little tidbit. That was definitely my highlight, other than the other ones that I mentioned before. And speaking of swearer, I definitely think my low light would probably be the dairy is fucked.
I really want. We've been sat in that room for a little bit, right? And like it was full for Tesco, and we'll come to Tesco. And then people like emptied out a little bit, and then everybody came back for like, is dairy fucked? And it was the talk was fucked, but I don't know anything about the dairy industry after seeing it.
It felt kind of like what you and Nick were talking about with the Shein sustainability promise that had been touring for Collision as well, where it felt like just a big empty promise of just, we know that we're a big company that's gone awry rather, and we're going to be better, but we don't know how we're going to be better other than we'll pledge to be here next year and show you what we've done different.
So it's Accenture Song and Arla Foods, and it was like leader of Accenture Song, CMO of Arla Foods. I'm sure they are very talented, smart people. I don't want to knock them as individuals, but why would you take? And they're the only people that didn't take questions. But for 15 minutes, they basically said, "We don't know if dairy's fucked." They didn't really mention plant milks. They didn't really mention like what they're doing to improve quality of life for animals. Like I love cheese, I love milk. Like, I hope dairy isn't fucked, but like I was like really wanting to see something like that, and I was genuinely impressed that someone from Accenture was allowed to say fucked, because most big consultancies wouldn't allow that. But then just to stand on stage and not really say anything, it's like there's this weird, horrible trend of companies getting up, taking attention time, and not saying anything, or like, and then being like, right, we ticked that box, we were there, we talked about our credibility, and like, there's not that many people in the room, like a few hundred people. I'm sure it's not going to make a massive impact to how much butter they sell. But I just wonder why you waste your time on that.
Yeah. Especially when you've got so many other talks that are fighting for your time. That title was definitely like a verbal clickbait attempt at getting people in, and it worked. So
maybe that's what they wanted, but yeah.
No, I did find it really strange though how they were the only talk. I maybe saw about a dozen talks over the couple of days, and that was the only one that didn't take questions.
If you had tried to ask a question on that, I don't know what they would have done, because they didn't. I would have loved. There were hands went up, but there was no questions really welcomed. So it was weird. It was very weird. Can I put a positive spin on? Can I close the shit sandwich with something that I thought was like I thought it was really good. I was really impressed by. So, lady from Tesco, she runs like their club card and their loyalty. She was probably my highlight, and it wasn't the sexiest conversation, but her talk was, "Is loyalty dead?" She started by saying, like, who's in a loyalty scheme? Everyone's raising their hands. So I think when she started a few years ago, there was like 15 or so million people in Tesco Club Card, but it was like literally just a program that gave away points. And you get something through the mail every 3 months, being like, here's some coupons, scan these, and you'll get money off dog food. And there's some data stuff behind it, like dunnhumby, like a really good example of early data analytics, customer data company. The Club Card program was very, very successful, but she'd sort of taken control of it when it was losing a bit of its luster, and she'd like taken it through to the next generation. So she'd increased the number of members from like 15 million to 21. I'm hopefully there or thereabouts right on the numbers. But she'd done sensible things, like she'd made a nice app. The app had then merged into the main Tesco app. They were using the data to be more like, let's stop sending things out to people every 3 months. The postage on this is insane. We can go and build a better digital product. Thinking about how do we make the offers with partners more relevant. If you're in Glasgow, there's no point us giving you offers that are relevant to Madame Tussauds in London. How do we make our partner offers link better to you in your geographic region and your spending habits? And there's something really interesting about like so many loyalty programs, especially in like grocery or retail, right? They're just giving away points for behavior that people would have already had. I thought what Tesco were doing, especially around I've seen that the Tesco Club Card offers, where like you get, buy a frozen pizza, instead of it being £3.50, it's for £1.99 with your club card. How they've persuaded FMCG companies to be like, yes, we will do that deal with you. I don't know. I just look at that and I go like, right, that was a business that was being really frightened by the big discounters like Lidl and Aldi, and they've gone through a very sensible set of steps. They've gone and built a really nice digital product. Their advertising and their creative around it is really nice. And I compare that to grocers in North America, so whether that's the US or Canada. And to hear like loyalty is just throwing points at people. There's no sense of actually how do we change their behavior? How do we help them through a time of cost of living crisis? How does that commercially help us when there's other entrants coming into the market? It was just a really nice talk to kick off the day. So yeah, I was really, really impressed by that one.
Yeah, I was disappointed that I missed that one because there was a queue out the door, because the way the stage was set up was that they would let, I don't know, however many people the capacity was, 300 people, and then you could queue to take spaces if people had left. But obviously Tesco was a big talk, so I didn't get a chance to check that one out.
We talk about the queues for a second. So like when I got there, I couldn't get in, and so like we can be British and we can moan about the shit show that it was. But I actually thought like there's something really interesting as a signal that these guys have run this event for a few years. They was apparently saying that like normally 40% of people don't turn up. In this case, basically everybody turned up. There's some bottlenecks in the venue. The venue was too small. They fucked up basically. But they were like going through people in the queue, being like, "Here's some food, here's some beer. We're really sorry we messed up. Next year we'll have a bigger venue." I thought the way they owned the mistake is actually, there's a really good lesson in We all make mistakes and we all screw up. And I'd flown from Canada for it, but like I'm not mad at them because they like owned it and they did a good job about handling it. And next year they'll do it bigger and better and they'll have a greater space.
And they did do the final day where they actually, like, because the fact that they were reacting to the problem in real time as well, where the final day they actually restricted entry between certain times and clearly signposted that as well, was a bit of a nice touch.
They responded to it. But the fact that many people are turning up for that event, like I'm at my third conference in 3 weeks and I'm a bit conference fatigued. That event felt a bit different, and it felt like there's something really special in the water here that I think I said it at the top, but like that had been lost a little bit. But like we need more events that are like, right, it's a festival. Like here's some free beer, some great food. It's not like your normal conference crap. It's outside in a cool area. There's some good people. When you have that vibe, it makes it better for everybody because you can just go up and say, hey, like, what are you up to? Whereas when you're doing it in like the sort of traditional conference format, I'm thinking back to Collision, like you people are like going, oh yeah, you're an investor, I want to talk to you. It didn't have that sort of cliquey vibe that a lot of events have. So
yeah, it was a big change from Money 2020 because it didn't clearly signpost who the person was or what their role. Like I said, it didn't just say speaker, investor, attendee. It isn't just a big signpost of who you should talk to. It's you should explore and chat to folk.
Yeah, and then like it's just nice. Just be good people. Just go talk to interesting people and see what happens. So
I was gonna ask, as a wrap up, what would be your tip for attending next year?
Hopefully the organisers will have that bigger venue because then you can get in and out and move around easier. I think that the important thing for those kind of events when you have like conflicting things is almost take a mate and then go send them to the things that you're not in and like sort of double your chances. But that to me, that was one of those things of like, we need more conversations about better marketing, and we need more conversations about better marketing that are not just campaigns and digital measurable stuff. So I think my advice for like next year is people should go to that event because it's distinctly different. And if they haven't done the Mad Masters thing with Rory Sutherland, again, massive fanboy. But the way that guy thinks about the world and the way he like the analogies that he has and just the way he like he's encouraging people to not follow the traditional playbook and not always play it safe. Before the event next year, do the online course because that's how I got my ticket. My ticket was free because of that. Yeah, that'd be my advice.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I was going to be cynical and just be like, get in early, but obviously since they're going to address the issue, it's definitely going to be something that's fixed, and I'd love to go again next year because, like you say, it's a different environment. It felt a bit, for lack of a better term, scrappy, but it felt like a lot more alive as a result of that, instead of just being a straight transactional sort of thing that these conferences can be.
There is, and I do think we need to start the campaign. We talked on the Collision podcast about countries and like conference booths needing to improve they spend a lot of money, but they could do that in a lot better way. To me, this is an example of like conferences can do a much better job of like a conference should be fun, and this was fun. So yeah, just go to it. Do this over something else.
Thanks for taking the time to sit down and talk with me, Iain.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Don't go anywhere just yet. As a bonus, here is our interview at MadFest with Matt Woods, co-founder and CEO of AFK, the attention marketing and talent management agency supporting content creators across social media and video games.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me, Matt. I really, really appreciate it. I know it's really, really busy here, so I'll try and keep it brief. So I was just starting off a little bit about you and what it is that you do, and why is it that you came to MadFest?
Yeah, my name is Matt Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of AFK. AFK is a global attention marketing agency, so we position ourselves across three verticals really. One's influencer management, that's our creator division. Pros, which takes care of everything in esports consultancy, so we represent players, we bring sponsorships to teams and right holders events. And then lastly, marketing agency. We do a lot across media buying, media planning, creative strategy, reaching Gen Z, on Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, all the platforms that you can imagine, podcasts included. And a lot of what we do is in gaming. So yeah, that's what my passion is. So.
Oh, that's great. I was just told before, like I'm a big gamer myself, so it's a really, really big pleasure to try and talk to somebody who's in that sort of field. It's not something that you stumble across often at these sort of marketing events. stuff that's really tied to video games and such. What is the background? How did you find your way into this field? How did you find or be a part of AFK?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think anyone who's here really knows how they got here or why they're here. Perhaps it's a bigger, more meaningful question. I always play games, you know, it was a waste of time according to my entire family, and I was a loser to my friends. But when I was at uni, I was supposed to be doing my master's in anthropology. I had a lot of spare time and I got really good. That's a bit of a clout, but pretty good at a game called League of Legends. Which at that time, 4 or 5 years ago, was a very popular game. I started making content, streaming, joined an esports organization as like a substitute player, and then met amazing people who did the same thing, but much more successfully than I did. And I realized I wanted to help others, help as many people as possible. So I started a talent agency to do that. And then that made me interact with brands. And as I had a background in marketing and growth of startups, I thought, hey, I can help these people understand the space. What is influence marketing? What is gaming? What is Twitch? Over the last few years, that's obviously blown up, and with it, so has our agency. So that's how I kind of got in here. It just kind of happened, and that's the beauty of it.
Was COVID a big sort of spike and a big uptick? Was that a big time for you, or was it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just like people had to look to turn to stuff, right? And so live streaming, Twitch, gaming, like everybody was doing it finally, and it just broke down all those stigmas. It took us out of this niche. You know, there were stereotypes. They still exist, but they were broken down a lot. And, you know, brought a lot of media spend across. And that's why I'm now here at MadFest, as I realized during COVID that, I don't know if I can swear on this, but I'm in the advertising space. So, yeah, that's how it all came about.
But no, so what is it that brings you to MadFest? Is it sort of a connections, or is it sort of to bring more awareness to AFK? Or
Yeah, good question. So, first time I came, a service provider of mine called Tagger, amazing people, a great product. They invited me. I had no idea what it was. It was free. I thought, okay, I'll go check it out. I thought I'll go one day. It's on for 3. Realized it was all you can eat food, all you can eat drink, and they're meeting, you know, all the best people from the UK in one space, whether it's brand, agency, and figuring out about stuff you don't even know, like, you know, ad tech, always everywhere. And it's probably one of the best, if not the best event that I've actually been to. Everyone's super friendly. And yeah, then this year I had to come back, did all 3 days, and it's just great. You know, like, my best recommendation for someone is come, experience it, let down your hair. You know, like, people here just want to have fun. And then from that, you know, meaningful personal and business adventures may develop.
As a final piece, what would be your top tip for someone who's like looking to get into the industry that you're in? Not necessarily, just have to necessarily be related to video games, but like in terms of marketing and brand management.
Just do it. You know, like the classic Nike phrase. I mean, everyone plans like, oh yeah, I've got this idea. I always used to have ideas growing up. I always used to write them down or think about them for 30 seconds and forget about them. But, you know, you need a strategy to a degree, but I'm not a big believer that you need to plan everything out, organize it, and overthink for like 6 to 9 months before you begin. Start and then figure those things out along the way. And, you know, if you're on something, like something good and, you know, you're a great person, then there's no doubt you'll be successful. Like, if you pour everything into it, then it's not going to be your fault if it doesn't succeed, but most likely it will. So that's what I would recommend. But yeah, make sure it's something you love so you can be all in.
Yeah. That's
So
amazing.
concludes another
thank you so much
episode
for
of
taking the
Label
time out of your
Sessions.
day.
Nice to meet you.
I appreciate
Be
your
sure to
busy
follow
man.
and subscribe
Thank
to
you
the
for chatting.
podcast no matter your platform of choice. And of course, start your journey today with us at labelsessions.com.